I know a lot of new business owners, they want to get funding. And when they get funding, then they spend frivolously on stupid shit that they think they need because they have that big number in the bank account that they didn't have before. And they're like, oh, I got money to burn now. When you're scaling a medical business, there's always going to be a bunch of potential risks. You have to make sure that everything when it comes to your LLC or PLLC in certain states is legal and registered right. You want to make sure that you're practicing medicine properly. Obviously, there's an easy degree to that. However, every board has a different way to practice. Every board has a different rule when it comes to supervision, things like that. And then really, you're going to have a lot of risks in general when it comes to just building a business. And so you want to make sure that you mitigate as much risk as possible. And we did that at the beginning by having general counsel, having a lawyer that really started out to be an inexpensive medical, malpractice lawyer who was registered in the state that we were going to open a clinic in. And he would tell us, oh, this is XYZ of this state. This is what you have to do, etc. After a while, we would read the board or the nursing board or the medical board's outlines and guidelines, and we would research that and make sure that we were adhering to as many of the rules as possible. Some of the rules are so gray areas that we just thought we would do what's best until later on, if we ever got, a lawyer or somebody who said, hey, you should probably do it this way. Okay, we'll do it that way, and we fixed it. A lot of times people are scared of doing things wrong in the medical field because they think they'll go straight to jail. A lot of the governing bodies, they don't take it that way. The biggest thing that the government bodies, Department of Justice, DEA, people like that, the reason why they catch so many people and take so many licenses away is intent. Like if you intended to disseminate drugs when you weren't supposed to, if you intended to defraud Medicare, if you intended to hurt people, that intent is what they get you on. If you didn't intend to do anything bad, and as soon as you figured out you were doing something wrong, you changed it immediately and have the documented processes and procedures about that, a lot of times they'll just give you a reprimand or say, hey, don't do it again. And you're like, yeah, I already know. I'm already fixing it. So starting Genesis, there wasn't really a lot of risks because I was coming from the medical field, full-time job, working at a prison system and 2 different urgent cares. So the only risk to me was really not doing it. Either I could have a job or I could try and build my own job. And that's what we did with the first clinic and growing it that way. As far as, business risk, we made sure that we didn't take loans up front. I know a lot of new business owners, they want to get funding. And when they get funding, then they spend frivolously on stupid shit that they think they need because they have that big number in the bank account that they didn't have before. And they're like, oh, I got money to burn now. And they make stupid decisions when it comes to marketing, stupid decisions when it comes to building a clinic with marble floors and gold painted walls and things like that really aren't necessary. At the beginning, we sold our house, my wife and I sold our house and then moved to Las Vegas to build our first business. The reason why we moved to Las Vegas from California is that the lifestyle was less expensive there at Las Vegas. The business was more friendly. The state was more friendly when it came to business. And at the same time, our money would go further in California because of what we had done and saved up before. But again, we had saved up for almost a year and a half before moving. We sold our house, so we had this long cushion of a year's worth of living expenses that I was able to jump in fully. Before even jumping in fully, I had decided that I was going to get a part-time job in Las Vegas so that I could at least supplement our income while working on the business. And usually many people do this, work on off days or get a part-time job and then make sure they're focusing on the business the other half. Turns out that in Las Vegas, like in many other places, which is illegal now, there was a ton of non-competes. So you can literally not work for anybody else or build your own business if you worked for a lot of the urgent cares or hospitals or things like that. So it came down to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump both feet in, put everything I have and everything I time-wise have into this business. And if it fails, then it fails. If it succeeds, then great. If it fails, we have a full year worth of expenses that I can just work my ass off on this business. And if it fails after a year, worst case scenario, I was able to walk into a hospital or another urgent care and get a job immediately. So I had a pretty good safety net when I jumped 2 feet in. And I didn't take loans because my business partner and I, we both are very risk averse, and we didn't want to take money on to make sure that we focused on the business as much as possible. And we did. We literally scrimped, saved, bootstrapped everything. Bootstrapping, I think, is the best way to go when you're starting out a business. Why? Because you feel every single dollar that you spend. You know where every single dollar is. You know every single part of the business in and out, and where the cash flow is coming in, where your cash flow is going to come in and where you can grow that, and where the money's going out. So you can see and know the entire business from beginning to end. When you take on a loan and have this person running this and this person running this, you don't get that control or that hands-on. When you feel it, it definitely hammers into your brain why you should or shouldn't do these things. And we learned lessons very early on: overspending on some marketing, trusting the wrong marketers, spending too much on furniture pieces, etc., that we felt in our own bank accounts. So we decided later on we weren't going to do that. So we learned a lot of lessons by failing really fast and bootstrapping everything. I totally recommend that. Now that we're larger, we have no debt, but at the same time, we can leverage debt to grow, such as taking on leases for different machines and stuff like that. That's going to increase our income. But at the same time, when we take on that debt, we're very smart about it. We do it only for tax purposes. We don't do it if it doesn't make sense. We run the numbers over and over and over, and we make sure we have enough money in order to afford it. So it really makes us better business owners. It will make you better business owners, really bootstrapping as much as you possibly can. Taking on an investor just because an investor wants to give you money is a bad idea. You don't need a investor or a partner unless they're bringing some sort of business experience in our field or in the field that you're going into that is different from what you know. So if they've done, let's say, if I was building a business and I wanted to build a medical business and an investor is going to give me $100,000 to start the first 2 or 3 clinics, and they have built 20 medical clinics before, they sold them for $10 million. Okay, that's a person that I'm just starting a business. They have a ton of knowledge in this, how to do it, what to do, etc. That's a good partner. Otherwise, if you're just looking for money, go to a bank. There's plenty of banks, Chase, Bank of America, that have a medical business banking section that allows you to get up to, I think, $2 or $3 million now for your business in a loan. So if you're just looking for money to start, go to a bank. Best way is saving up the money in order to build your business. Start with one room in somebody else's medical clinic or somebody else's chiropractic office or in a retail shop where you're paying $500 a month and starting your business in there and then growing from there. That's how we did it. We also, speaking on that specifically, we started our first clinic in a chiropractic office, renting 2 rooms in that chiropractic office. Starting small. I wanted to make sure that our rent was as low as possible. I think for those 2 rooms, we paid like $1,000 or $1,500 a month. Then when we went to 3 rooms, we paid a little bit more, $2,000. When we went to 4 rooms, we were spending still $2,500 a month for 4 rooms in this chiropractic office. And we were consistently negotiating and talking with the chiropractor who was still working and worked in the other 2 or 3 medical rooms. We also made sure that we were working on opposite days as the chiropractor. So if we needed to, we can use all the rooms in this chiropractic office. It made a lot of sense. It kept our expenses way down, and it helped us with cross-pollination of patients. We're not chiropractors. We don't do any of that stuff. He was doing a lot of personal injury cases as well, so we were able to trade patients back and forth, and we would take care of them on our side. if they need chiropractic work, we would send them to his side. So we were able to really work together in a good affiliate way. The amount of money we initially invested, Brent and myself, was about $20K each. So $40K to start this clinic. That was including the first rent, some TI of like $5,000 or $6,000 to put new flooring in, white walls, etc. And then a few pieces of furniture. Most of the furniture we borrowed or we bought on Wayfair for a few $100s, and the signage was again less than $100. I think on the front door we made some stickers for the front door, and then we put a sign in the lobby. But all that stuff was as cheap as we possibly could get it to start. It does not have to be a $300,000 build for you to provide a great service. If your office is clean, if it looks tidy, and then when the patient comes in, you give 5-star service, that is the difference between a business who's going to be around in 10 years and a business who is just all pomp and circumstance and nobody's going to come in. We made sure we initially invested a low amount. We bootstrapped everything we possibly could. Even when our marketing company overspent $40,000 within 45 days and bankrupted us, went negative on our bank account, we, again, were able to put in another $20K each and keep the business afloat and keep it going. So every month after month, we were very tight on our expenses. And now we know when we open a new location, the way we do it, how we do it, the way we plan, each location should be net positive, meaning making money and paying for all the expenses within 60 to 90 days. Within that 2 to 3 months, there should be it popping positive and making money, starting very, very low on your expenses and making sure you only have the limited amount of staff that you have. So there's a difference between making stupid mistakes and then calculated risks. So the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs make when it comes to pouring money into their clinics is trying to build out a castle. You don't need this marble floor with $10,000 sconces and a light up sign on the outside of the building that costs $20,000. You don't need all of that. Make it simple, make it inexpensive, and provide a kick-ass, over-the-top customer service, and people won't really worry about it. We all have gone to that restaurant, or we know that restaurant that, might be a B or C on their, cleanliness grade, but at the same time, they make like the best food and they have the best customer service, etc. Really, in the end, how your clinic looks, as long as it looks neat, tidy, and presents itself well, does not need to be over the top Ritz-Carlton. You don't need to spend the money on that. You need to spend the time on customer service and really working in your patients. The second mistake I see entrepreneurs make is pouring money into machinery day one. They want the best lasers, the newest Cool Sculpting, the newest M-Sculpt Neo day one. You don't have any money to be able to afford to market those things, the lease, etc. We didn't buy our first really expensive machine, and real expensive was above $100K for a single machine, until 12 months after the first clinic opened. And it was already making money. It had already hit 7 figures, so $1 million more in gross income, so it could afford that machine. Now we buy less expensive machines like the Store's Deactor 100, which is a shockwave or pulse wave therapy machine that helps with gains wave. It helps with erectile dysfunction and female sexual issues. We buy that first because that's only like a $20,000 machine. So financed, it's only $500 or less a month. With marketing, it pays for itself significantly quick. So that's the only machine we buy up front. Otherwise, every other machine we wait till 6 months, a year, until the clinic is really churning and burning before we add those machines on. Some treatments are really not worth the risk as well. We started out as a stem cell company years and years ago. This is when everybody was doing it. It was still fairly legal. There was no issues with what products you could or couldn't use. Over the years, the FDA got stricter and stricter and stricter on this. And we knew getting bigger and bigger and bigger, there was going to be an issue with the FDA at some point telling us we couldn't do this, or it would be illegal, etc. And it came in 2021, long after we had already moved away from stem cells and changed to weight loss, hormone therapy, men's and women's sexual health, and aesthetics. They said, hey, essentially anybody who's doing these products is doing something illegally. Call the FDA. You can report them, etc. And there's been many doctors who have gotten their licenses stripped, providers who have gotten their licenses stripped, etc. So a rep might walk into your office and tell you you could still do this, this, and this. The only legal stem cell therapies that patients can do right at this time are the products that are rated for face only, and you have to make sure that they have a 361 designation for face only. And if you're doing face, fine. That's what the product is supposed to be used for. But if you're using it for joints or things like that, and it's not autologous, which means from your own bone marrow or your own fat, sorry if you get in trouble. The FDA rules are very clear on that. So you can still do stem cells if you're doing autologous bone marrow fat, but if you're doing anything else, that's what we stay away from. It's not worth the risk when you're trying to grow a massive clinic. If you're just one clinic, you might never get in trouble. But again, I'm not telling you to do illegal things. Another thing with that is that backdoor deals aren't worth it. There are a lot of clinics out there who are going to do tit for tat when it comes to backdoor deals, when it comes to buying products from China and importing them, when it comes to Botox, when it comes to fillers, a lot of machinery. All those things are, unless they're registered with the FDA, all those things are illegal. You cannot import drugs from outside the United States, import Botox, import fillers without a license and a registration to be able to do that. So a lot of people will do that because the cost is much lower. I mean, we get emails almost every single day as business owners where the cost of these drugs is 1/10 of the cost in the United States to actually get it. But we never do things like that, because we don't know what's in that product. We don't know if it's FDA cleared. We don't know what the licensing is in those countries. And a lot of time it's way lower, the standards, than it is in the US. So those backdoor deals aren't worth it. At some point, you're gonna get caught. It's 2024 now, and if you Google Botox poisoning 2024, there was something like 30 clinics that got in trouble for importing Botox from overseas, and it got a ton of people sick, and a few people actually died or were paralyzed from it. And it's just not worth the risk doing things like that. Never cheap out on the medication, guys. Like, look for a reputable pharmacy, get their certificate of analysis showing that what you're actually providing for a patient is what's actually in that vial. Otherwise, at some point, if you're doing illegal things, again, intent, you're going to get in trouble. I'm sorry. Those are all the ways that you can really lower your risk as much as possible when starting and even scaling a medical clinic. The other way is, as we've grown, we decided to bring on a law firm very well versed in medical legal law across the United States. This is when you have multiple locations across multiple different states. You want to look up a legal team. Our legal team currently is called Bird Adato. They're very well versed in mergers and acquisitions, scaling medical clinics, and the structure of medical clinics across the country in all 50 states. So hiring a big firm like that as you grow is very, very important to make sure that all your legal T's are crossed and I's are dotted, so that you're doing everything that you possibly can to protect yourself as much as possible. So I hope that helps on the legalities of scaling, how we lowered our risk while scaling. It's a lot. Make sure you're writing those notes down, and we'll see you in the next video. Hope that helps.